Thank you. I've changed my smelly shirt for, I think, a very appropriate colour for this last section, actually. Smelt like a wrestler's jockstrap out there, I tell you. Okay, so where now? Well, this section is about the control system coming down. Because we're in a period where a dramatic shift in human awareness and human consciousness is in the process of taking shape. Some people call it the shift, sometimes I call it the vibrational quickening, but what I've been calling it for 20 years, because I came across this in the very earliest days after I met that psychic, that first psychic, I called it the truth vibrations. The first book I ever wrote after that awakening started, because it's ongoing, was called Truth Vibrations, or the Truth Vibrations. Because I came across this awareness. There seemed no evidence at the time, my goodness, that there was a vibrational change in the process of coming. I understand it more now, mine, and we'll get into it, but I had no idea then. And what it was going to do was act like a spiritual alarm clock, and it was going to wake people up. It was going to wake people up from this slumber, this coma that we've been in for so long. And also, my goodness me, as this truth proved to be true 20 years on, that it was going to bring to the surface all that had remained hidden. That the truth was not only coming out, it couldn't be stopped from coming out because this vibrational change was bringing it to the surface. Like I say, 20 years ago, awakening, new consciousness, what? Truth coming out? Oh, you must be joking. 20 years on, my goodness, look at it. I'm fortunate to travel the world speaking, and I'm being invited to more and more countries you never think you're being invited to. And so I can see that this is not just happening in Britain, not just happening in America. It's happening all over the world. And all the differences is those that are staying in mind for now, and those who are opening mind to this change and perceiving self and the world in a completely different way. So I've been saying through the day, there's a base vibrational construct, the base vibration of this virtual reality coming out of the black holes, which triggers as it goes through its cycle, which appears in the play-out world as like a time loop. It triggers different information coming from the suns, and we decode that information, and as it changes, so the information changes, and so therefore the epoch changes, the yuga changes. And we're now at this cusp where we're going from one epoch, one vibrational information epoch, into another one. And this new one is dramatically more expansive, dramatically more enlightened in the level of awareness that we are going to have access to. And the control system, which is a manifestation of this epoch, cannot survive this epoch, and that's why it's doomed. And we're now in the cusp of that change from one kind of world experience into another one. It's just another stage on the circuit of experience. And so, while for a few years yet, it's not going to seem like the control system's going down, because it's going to be throwing everything at us, because it's going to be desperate, there is no way that our children, young people, and grandchildren are going to live out their lives, as appears to be the case now, in an Orwellian, fascist, global state. No way. This changing epoch, changing information, is starting to be activated within the Earth grid and, of course, within the human grid. This new information is starting to, for those that open themselves to it, instead of stay closed in density, because if you stay in a dense state, then these higher vibration energies are not going to impact like you if you open yourself to them and connect with them. But those that are awakening, this new photon information, this more expanded perception, we're starting to integrate it, and we're starting to get insights from it, because it contains information that hasn't been around in this period we've been through. Now it is, and suddenly it's like, oh, I see it now, oh, I get it now. Why didn't I get it before? Because you're now decoding a totally different level of information that's becoming available, and it's encouraging us, it's pressing us, it's urging us to open to all that is and change the way we perceive the world. What certainly is true is some strange things are happening in the sun. The sun goes through cycles of less activity and more activity, the so-called sunspot cycle, which also produces the solar flares and all that business. And it's kind of quite a predictable cycle of some 11 years, and it goes into a down period, and then another one starts. But what's happening now is that the down period has been bewildering scientists, because the new period, the new sunspot cycle of activity, which will push temperatures up a bit, and these bloody global warmers will go orgasmic when it does, is not becoming active. There is no one, this is something I read in a scientific magazine, there is no one alive today, or nearly alive today, who has experienced a down state of sunspot activity of the kind that we've been through in the last few years. This is why temperatures have been falling. This one is the so-called near solar minimum in January 2005 of sunspot activity, and this was the sun yesterday in terms of sunspot activity. Something's changing, and other things about the sun are not reacting as they normally would. But I suspect that when it starts again, and it will, we're going to see some dramatic activity in the sun. And that will impact upon not just the Earth's energy field, it will impact on our consciousness, our awareness, and things will start to speed up. Because this new information construct coming out of the sun is symbolized by Neil Hagen, myself, as a lion. As the real human being, I symbolize as a lion also. And basically, these truth vibrations are going to dramatically, as we go through these next few years, dramatically affect human perception, human awareness, and human potential as this new information becomes decoded and the awareness potential expands and we access a greater part of all possibility. Another thing these truth vibrations are going to do and are doing is to break that wall, that line of troops on the left brain, and we're going to be accessing more and more of our right brain potential. So our creativity, our insight, our ability for what people would call genius today, it's the natural human state, is going to more and more expand. We're heading in for an incredible time. It might not seem like it like for a few years, like I say, because these people will be battening down the hatches and trying to do everything they can to stop it, but that is what awaits us. In many ways, I wish I wasn't 58. I wish I was like 28, because I'd like to live through a bit more of this, but I'll have had me fill by the time I'm done, which is bloody well not yet, I'll tell you. So when so as we are impacted by these truth vibrations, because we open ourselves to them, then we break out of these boxes. And these are the people who are not being touched by that yet, but my goodness me, I'm seeing people now change dramatically in no time. I was walking through where I was speaking in Santa Fe last year, and this guy walks past me. He'd flown in from Austin, Texas, and he said, 3 months ago, mate, I thought you were mad. Words to that effect. He said, now I get it. And he got it so quick, and we're going to see this happening. People changing dramatically, and also, as I understood 20 years ago, that all that's been hidden, the curtain is being pulled back. And we're in for some shocks. I mean, of course, what we've talked about today is shocking to most people who have seen the world in another way, but the shocks are going to go on, because what's been going on in this world behind the scenes is nothing like what we think it is. And these truth vibrations, this energetic change, this new epoch, of enlightenment and expansion, and people call love and harmony and respect, connection, is going into these dark places, these structures that are held together by low vibrational density, and breaking them up. Not, like a war. It's a new epoch coming. And as the new epoch comes, the energetic change is going to break up the denser structure of society and belief. And like I say, if these guys think, as they do, because they're accessing here, not here, because of their mental and emotional state, that it's a done deal, well, they're in for a bit of a shock. Because, when you've got a dam of water, it can take a long, long time before the cracks appear. But from the cracks appearing to collapse can be a very, very short time. And already, if you look from this perspective, the cracks are appearing. And the first crack is when people say, I've had a freaking belly full of this. I ain't taking this anymore. Then the cracks start to appear. And what we're going to see in the next 10 years is this control system, increasingly as the years pass and these truth vibrations get more powerful, we're going to see this control system come down, because a new awareness is being breathed into this reality, and a control system based on suppression of awareness therefore cannot survive that change. Now, another perspective on why the control system is going crazy now. As I say, they can see down what we call a timeline further than we can when we're in this reality, because they're in another reality looking in. So they could see, they don't know the scale of it because they can't get out here where it's being orchestrated from, and they couldn't get here. But they can get a feeling, and they have had an awareness that this energetic change was coming, and how it could potentially affect the slaves in terms of waking them up. It is absolutely no coincidence whatsoever that it is now, of all times, in this experience within this reality, when these truth vibrations are manifesting themselves and quite demonstrably changing the way people perceive self in the world, that this control system is at its peak in trying to suppress humanity, control humanity. It's absolutely in sync, because this moon matrix can only influence human perception if humans stay within its vibrational frequency, within its hack. The truth vibrations are taking us out of that frequency range, and therefore it's losing its influence on awakening people by the day, as we start to perceive and see and become aware of things that we weren't before when we were connected to the hack. And all these things, destabilizing us chemically through food and drink, rewiring the body genetically through genetically modified food, what they're doing to the kids, the drugs, mobile phones, and all this microwave soup that we now live in, microchips especially, they're all designed to externally suppress or internally suppress, in terms of food, etc., the human body computer, to stop it accessing these truth vibrations. It seems to be, on the face of it, that they're trying to grab more and more control. The truth is, it is a desperate, desperate attempt to hold on to the control they've had thus far. That's what it's about. It's battening down the hatches to stop the control system coming down. In part because it has many expressions, including creating earthquakes and dramatic extremes of weather. This technology known as HAARP in Alaska, and it's now got other organizations connected to it and technology connected to it increasingly around the world, it bounces radio waves off the ionosphere, the highest part of the atmosphere, and back to Earth. And what it is, in major part, is a underpinning, a supporting role to this moon matrix to create a low vibrational atmosphere in the lower atmosphere where we live in and operate in like this. Again, it's targeting this morphic field, as the Satanists call it, and some others do too, to keep it in a low vibrational state. It's fighting the truth vibrations. They know what they're doing, on one level anyway. And one of the other things that HAARP can do, and it's in the patents of the technology, it can send out radio waves carrying information, thoughts, on the wavelength of human brain waves, and it can impose those thoughts on the brain, which we then manifest through as our own thinking. That's also part of this, and it's also part of this defense mechanism against this epoch change. And if they change and affect this energy field we live in, we will be affected by it if we stay in density and closed mind state. I'm absolutely convinced, have been for years, that part of the creation of this like sub-reality underpinning, supporting the moon matrix, which was okay up to this point, didn't need anything else. But now this energetic change is taking place. They're bringing the troops in, if you like, to underpin it. And I'm convinced that part of the chemtrails, which kind of pollute our skies and stuff and contain metals and barium and aluminium and all this stuff, is part of creating this sub-reality. What the truth vibrations are doing is healing this schism. It's part of what it's doing. And the schism has been this distortion in the metaphysical universe, the waveform information construct, has been playing out into the holographic play-out world for, well, what would you call it? Eons, for as long as we can remember. And it has manifested itself out as conflict and fractured personalities and all the rest of it. This is being healed all the time as these truth vibrations impact themselves and we move into this new epoch. And those that are tuning into it, it's healing these divisions. And when this changes, this must change. And the control system is a play-out holographic expression of the schism. So when the schism heals, as it's going to, this distortion, its outward holographic expression, the control system, must fall. That's why it's doomed. It cannot survive this energetic change because it is a manifestation of the distortion that is now being healed. The pieces are being put back in that have been taken out. A totally new era is in the process of moving into human experience, and this control system, it's doomed, and all its expressions are doomed. Not doomed like, let's have a mass bloody murder, mass killing, all the rest of it. Doomed in this reality because they're connected to something that's disappearing. There'll still be infinite consciousness, even those in the control system. They'll remember who they are eventually. It might take some time, and we'll be having a beer with them one day thinking, do you remember when you were stupid? Oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, God, mate, yeah. Oh, that's what we'll be doing at some point. So this epoch change is moving from a sense of division, left brain, where it sees everything as apart from everything else, sees everything in terms of structure and apartness. We're moving from that perception as this energetic construct changes to a perception of what comes from expanded consciousness and awareness, which is we're all one. We're all expressions of the same one consciousness, which again makes racism ridiculous, ludicrous, insane, the height of ignorance. And as the schism, the distortion is healed, so other expressions of the distortion will become what we call history. The police state, the energetic wars, once we're really in to this expanded awareness, the very idea of going to war. We have laws because of the distortion, because of the epoch we've been going through. We don't need laws in the state of awareness that we're going into, and our children and grandchildren will go even more into, going through. We don't need laws in the state of awareness that we're going into, and our children and grandchildren will go even more into. You don't need to say we have a law against murder when murdering someone would never even enter your psyche. You don't need environmental protection laws when harming the planet because you know the planet and you are one anyway would never occur to you. You don't need these things. Laws are there to suppress overwhelmingly, but also expressions of laws are to try to mitigate for the distortion that manifests itself in distorted behavior. The idea of anyone going hungry in a world of plenty in the epoch we're entering, never even conceive it. You mean they used to let people starve? That's this mentality that we're moving out of, and we're at the cusp now of this change, which is a very interesting place to be. We're going back to that. We're going back to being connected to what we really are. And of course, 2012 is much talked about and will be more talked about as we get closer to it. I have a different view on that. You know, I should be saying, given I've been writing about these truth vibrations for 20 years, I should be saying, see, 2012 told you, yeah. No, I'm not saying that, actually. I think 2012 is a diversion. By 2012, yes, things will have moved on. Things will be changing. Amazing things will be taking place. There'll be big challenges, and there'll also be big, wonderful things starting to manifest by 2012 compared with now. But there'll be more so in 2013, more so in 2014, more so in 2015. This is an ongoing process as we move through the cusp out of one era, epoch, energetically, information, into another one. And so by the time it reaches where it's the natural state and the old epoch has gone altogether, you know, it's going to be down the road. But every year, every month, things are going to be moving on energetically. And there'll be things in 2012, and maybe a very good chance that manufactured things will happen in 2012 to focus attention as part of the diversion of the control system. It's quite possible that that will happen. But I don't see 2012 as some epoch-changing year. But there comes a point, and I don't think it's too far away at all, where the tipping point comes in this energetic change, where the irresistible force, which is the truth vibrations, then start to become the dominating state of awareness and perception in this reality. And then we're really moving. And I don't see that as too far away. Like I say, it takes a long time for a dam to crack, but not from then to it collapsing. So we're actually living in like a river of energy that's getting faster and faster in terms of its vibration, the quickening. And what we can do is we can get on the airbed or the canoe and we can go, whoa, what a ride, this is great, that's fantastic. Or we can stand there and try to hold on to the world as it was, in which case we're going to be expending more and more energy trying to hold our status quo, and eventually we won't be able to hold it, and we'll get, symbolically anyway, washed away. And as these truth vibrations manifest themselves and our awareness starts to expand, we're going to be accessing levels of realities that have been denied us up to this point. People talk about the sixth sense. That's nothing compared with what people are going to have as we move into this new era. It's going to be extraordinary. We're going to remember the fantastic people and potential that humans once were, when they were aware of who they were, and the world in our heads, in other words, the world we experience, is going to dramatically change. We're heading for a new dawn. Now, this is a phrase the control system uses for their new era, a new dawn, a new day. Well, it is a new dawn and a new day, but ain't the one they think's coming. We've been through this process in the last epoch, and now we're going back the other way. And as a result, this control system must fall, and we are emerging from the abyss, the suppression, and all the rest of it to be who we really are. And that must change everything. Einstein said, you cannot solve problems with the same level of consciousness that created them. That is very good news, because what we've been doing through this epoch is creating problems with a certain level of consciousness, mind, and then bringing people in to solve the problems with mind and creating more problems. Now we're in this change where we're expanding consciousness, expanding awareness, and suddenly that cycle of problem and more problem, and it's unsolvable. There's no way out of this. Suddenly it's a piece of cake. Look, it's so simple. Fantastic time we're going into, but the next few years are going to be challenging. It's breaking the spell that the moon matrix and its supporting technologies and manipulations has had on the human mind. You know, we don't have to find enlightenment. We are enlightened. What we need to do is remove the barriers of belief and perception that we've thrown around ourselves that keep us from that enlightenment. That enlightenment's never gone away. It's over here. It's saying, I'm over here. I'm over here. And this is what a major role the truth vibrations are doing, because they're the quickening. They're breaking up these dense energy fields, and as they do, suddenly we're connecting with levels of awareness that we didn't realize. We've been in a trance all this time, programming perception because of that. And it connects through the reptilian brain. So let's disconnect from the reptilian brain as part of breaking the spell. It feeds us fear. It has to, constantly. Fear this, fear that. Insecurity, anxiety. That's what it's doing to manipulate our perception and hold us in a low vibrational state, therefore the moon matrix. So one of the ways that we can, just on a daily basis, is disconnect from the lizard brain, and therefore what it's connecting us to, is to, simple thing, don't count to 10, count to 50. And if you're still wound up and about to hit somebody, count another 50. Because what the reptilian brain does is it doesn't think, it reacts. That's why it's so fast. It doesn't have to think, just reacts. Now, the other parts of the brain, like the neocortex, they think things through, so it takes longer than the reptilian brain. This is why we react to something, reptilian brain, and then maybe a minute later, 2 minutes later, maybe half an hour later, the visual cortex has thought this through, and we go, oh my God, I overreacted, didn't I? Did I really say that? Oh my God. That's what, it's the reaction system, reaction. And if we can stop reacting, emotional reaction and all that stuff, because, you know, we're manipulated so much through the reptilian brain reaction system. It's not problem, think it through, do a bit of research, see what you think, discuss it a bit, solution. It's problem, reaction, solution. That whole process of mass manipulation is done through here. So when we're faced with a situation, and I'm talking to myself as much as anybody here, you know, I'm not cross-legged on a mountain saying, hey, here I am. No, I'm talking to myself as much as anyone else. When we're faced with these reaction systems, whether it's because of a world event, whether it's because something in our lives, if we can just go, okay, I don't like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and eventually the reptilian brain loses its power because it's a reaction power. And once the reaction's gone, it's lost its power. And we can think things through. And if we stop reacting through the reptilian brain, then we are massively disconnecting from the moon matrix. And as these truth vibrations change the nature of this energetic control of the human collective mind, the hive mind that we've been connected to, then its expression, this structured world, the way we work. And, you know, my brother said to me once, what's it all about, Dave? He said, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you come home, you have your tea, you watch telly a bit, and you go to bed. You get up and you go to work. I mean, look at it. It's the way it is, the way it's structured. It's slavery because it's so limited. And I've talked to people once, the last time I spoke at the Oxford Union, I was talking to some students. They could not perceive a world in which there wasn't a hierarchical structure of government because there would be chaos. That's the left brain at work. And people, when you think, look, this world is crazy. It's not serving people. People are serving it. That's what we are. We're slaves to a system. Politicians are slaves to a system. They go into the system. They think they're going to change it. The system changes them. And therefore, we can't perceive left brain, old epoch, that actually there are other ways of living, of interacting, other ways of providing food and warmth and what you have, other ways of living life than this drudgery. But as we expand our awareness, then other ways of interacting will become very obvious to us. Blinded by belief, believe. This is one of the control system's greatest weapons to control the human psyche. Get them to believe something. They don't care if it's this religion or this political belief or whatever it is. As long as you believe something powerfully, then they got you. Because belief builds walls around itself, repels all borders that challenge that belief, and suddenly you're living your life on a postage stamp or a dot. And your true ability to perceive in an expanded way is gone. You've given it up to the belief. This is how it must be. And once you have a belief, like a religious belief, then there are rules and regulations. Walls go around the belief. If you're going to be one of us, you must believe this. You can't believe that because they believe that, so you'll be one of them if you believe that, and all the rest of it. Here we go. We're all possibility. What are we doing having rigid beliefs when we're all possibility? Religion is mind. And there are many expressions of religion, not just going to church. There are many religions of the mind of various kinds that don't appear to be, but they are. Addictions of the mind. It's mind. You must believe this. There is one possibility. What's that saying? There is one possibility. That's how mind thinks. Consciousness, there is one possibility. You're having a laugh, darling. So religion, as we know it, is not going to survive this epoch change either, because it's an expression of the last one. These are people in a hypnotist stage show who've been told that they are religious believers. There's so many religious believers who are like that. There's so many prisons of the mind, religious belief, racial belief. I'm in a different spacesuit to you, so I'm better than you all. It's like being two spacemen on the moon and they're having a bloody argument because the spacesuit is that colour and that spacesuit is that colour and that was made here and that was made there. Mine's superior to yours. It's childish, child's play. And by the way, it's not just white people who are racist. It's a mentality that can manifest through any race. And you have racism all over the world. It's not a racial belief, racism. It is a mental mind state. And anyone that thinks they're superior to anyone else because of their body computer state or color or whatever is controlled completely by mind and ignorance, political belief, self-identity belief. I am Joe Public, I'm little me. All these things will go and have to go if we're going to open up to the truth vibrations, because they are all about limitation, all about little me. And as researchers have shown, when we have rigid beliefs, the brain fires off the neurons in a specific network. And what that does is filter reality, decode reality, in line with the way those neurons are firing. Therefore, it continually edits its reality and creates self-fulfilling prophecies, if you like, that it keeps seeing the world according to its belief. Despite receiving information that challenges the belief, it just filters that information in line to protect its belief. And then when you change your belief system, as has been shown in research, the neurons start firing in a different way, and you start seeing the world in a different way. If we can get to a point where we open our minds without belief, we come from a state of knowing, all-knowing consciousness rather than belief from mind, then we open up the range of perception and understanding and awareness well beyond anything you can access if your brain is firing off in this symbolic way, limited by rigid belief, whatever belief that may be. When we open our mind to consciousness, everything changes. And to do that, I would suggest we need a blank sheet of paper. You know, it's not about learning anything new. We're all knowing if we can access that level of ourselves. It's unlearning the programming that has kept us from that level of awareness that we truly are. And therefore, because we're dealing with all possibility, at the core of our being, that's what we are, we need a blank sheet of paper. All preconceived idea needs to go, all preconceived belief needs to go, and let information, intuitive knowing, decide what we think about things and feel about things rather than preconceived idea. It's not possible becomes, well, let's see if it's possible on the basis of the evidence, the basis of the information, the basis of how I feel. And then suddenly we're not saying, no, that's possible, I'm going to shut that out by reflex action. We're going to look at it. And when you do look at it, as I know from experience, what seems to be crazy to start with starts to take on very profound dimensions. Because we're all possibility. And if we're saying only this is possible, only that's not possible, we know we're not operating at the core of our being, which is all possibility. We are editing things. We are limiting ourselves. We are entering the realm of mind. And it's a time to choose, in many ways, between the head, the intellect, not that he doesn't have the part to play, it does, it being the governor, and the heart, knowing, intuition. What changed my life more than anything else was 20 years ago when I decided that if I was ever had a decision between going with my intuitive knowing, which we feel here, funnily enough, in the kind of heart chakra area, and my mind, I was going to go with my head, I was going to go with my intuition. And it changed my life. And has allowed me to follow this path, because I can tell you over the last 20 years, there have been many times in the early days, not for a long time, but in the early days, when my head was going, you're going to say what? You're going to do what? You must be joking. Not in my lifetime. But I thought, no, I feel to do it, I feel to do it. I went with it. And as a result, you follow this, this energetic path through intuitive knowing that's been laid out. And what happens, because intuition, knowing, is coming from another level of awareness beyond five-sense reality, it means that to five-sense reality, general world, some of the things you do when you follow your intuition are seen as, I think I'm possibly an example of this, are seen as crazy and mad and lunatic and dangerous and all that stuff. And what happens then when you do that and you get that reaction is that the head kicks in, the mind, which wants to protect its preeminence that it's had up to this point, puts its arms together and says, see what happens when you don't listen to me, see the trouble you've got into? And it's like, yeah, okay, and you come back into mind. But if you stick with it, and you take what comes as a result of expressing your uniqueness and expressing your intuitive knowing, then eventually things happen, good things, great things sometimes, that happen not despite what you did and the reaction you got, but because of it. And then the mind, the intellect, looks at this and says, well, hold on a second. It might get you into trouble, but eventually it works out. And what happens then is your head and your heart, your knowing, your intuition come together. And the war stops. We become whole again, where mind serves consciousness instead of serving itself. And it's years and years, I say this honestly, since my intuition and my head have had a problem. It's an incredible feeling, because it's like, when you start out, it's like, I feel to do this. You're not doing that. No. And then after a while, when this sync takes place, it's like, I feel to do this. And the head goes, okay. And it's a totally different way of interacting with the world. The war stops. And this is open to all of ours. But the first thing is what it is. It's to face the situation we're in, and then we can do something about it. First thing, to realize that up to this point, we have been slaves thinking we were free. And so the first stage is to acknowledge that, and when we do, we can do something about it because we're accepting what the situation is. The second thing is to choose freedom. And so the first stage is to acknowledge that, and when we do, we can do something about it because we're accepting what the situation is. The second thing is to choose freedom over slavery. and be prepared to do what is necessary to achieve that freedom over slavery. And when we do that, and we mean it, there is a shift in our energy field. As that shift takes place, what I call magnetic attraction, it's the energy field is of the human body is an expression vibrationally of our state of being, mentally, emotionally, what we might call spiritually. And therefore, our state goes out as a vibrational field, and it draws in other vibrational fields that sync with it. We call these people, places, locations, ways of life, jobs, opportunities, or lack of them. So when this shift takes place, because we've said my intent, very powerful intent, is that I want freedom, and I want to end my life. I'm not going to be a slave anymore. I'll do what is necessary to understand who am I, where am I. Suddenly this energy field shift takes place, and we start drawing in new people, places, locations, opportunities, etc., that are syncing with the new vibrational state as opposed to the old one. And at this point, and I experienced this big time in the public eye, we experience this shift as our lives falling apart. Partnerships may end. We may lose our job. We may change location. We may, like me, undergo massive ridicule. But what if we understand what's happening? The old energy field, the old you, the old intent, the old awareness was pulling in the old life. And then when it shifts, it's pulling in a very different expression of the new vibrational self. And that transitional period, when the shift takes place, the old life falls apart. But if you want to change your life, then the old life has to fall apart unless it serves the new one. So when we choose freedom, the transformation can be challenging. It's easier now because more and more people are going through it and we're beginning to understand the process. I felt like this so many times. I went to the top of a hill in the south of England, the west of England, one day because I didn't want to upset anybody. I went to the top of this hill in the middle of nowhere and I screamed my frustration out. I know what this image means, and so many other people do. But it was the old life breaking down so the new one can take over. It's time to know thyself. Not thyself that we've been told we are, but thyself which we really are. This self, everything from the beginning, my birth, my ancestors, my children, my wife, everything comes together simultaneously. I saw everything about me, about everyone who was around me. I saw everything they were thinking now, what they thought then, what was happening before, what was happening now. There is no time, there is no sequence of events, no such thing as limitation of distance, of period of time, of place. I could be anywhere I wanted to simultaneously. That's who we are. And that's what the control system has tried to keep from us. Now, the way to go most powerfully with this change is to stop identifying who we are with what we are told we are, little me. To stop looking in the mirror and thinking that reflection is me, it's all I am. And looking at ourselves under the microscope, that's who I am. And bringing our point of observation from I am David Icke, a personality born in Leicester, England in 1952, to I am infinite consciousness, all that is, has been, and ever will be, can be, all possibility. Infinite love, having an experience through this lens into this reality that they call David Icke. And again, once we take this observation, from that observation, there is a fantastic shift in our energy field. And we break up these densities that are holding us in mental and emotional servitude. Everything starts to change when we move our sense of self-identity. That's why the control system wants us in there. It can't cope with this. We have to be in there. Little me. And this is the fork in the road. Are we going to live our lives as consciousness or mind? As all there is or little me? Because that will decide the kind of world we're going to live in. Escaping the box, and it is a box, it's a vibrational box. Getting out of this thing called cognitive dissonance, where we lie to ourselves. Cognitive dissonance is, for people who haven't come across it, it's a very powerful controlling mechanism whereby we have a belief about self or the world or a situation, and we're sticking with it. And when we face information or experience which challenges the belief, then cognitive dissonance is that uneasy state when you see that your belief system is under threat from this information or this experience. If this is real, then this belief can't be. And what you do then is you go about these incredible stories we tell to ourselves to convince ourselves that this can't be true, to protect the belief system. Cognitive dissonance could be a good thing if that dissonance leads you to look at your belief in the light of this experience or this new information, and then move the belief in the light of that. Then cognitive dissonance is a good thing. What most people do is try to hold the belief system in the face of this. And there's no greater example than the Skeptics Society. You ever come across them, the Skeptics Society? Bloody hell, they are cognitive dissonance.com, they are. I tell you. I've debated with some of them on television programs and stuff, and one of them, his bum kept bouncing on the seat. He had what they call vitus dance, is it? My mother used to call it, where you can't stop moving, because he was in such cognitive dissonance, because the information he was hearing was so at odds with his belief system, he was kind of going crazy. And so you get people who come up with these amazing bloody stories to try to explain away why something is not challenging their belief system. So again, part of that blank sheet of paper is letting cognitive dissonance serve us. I'm going to look at my belief system instead of holding on till our knuckles turn white. Also, trying to avoid looking at the truth, because if we don't, we ain't going to change anything. Go beyond being in denial of what is happening in our lives and in the world, and start looking at it as it really is. It is what it is, because unless we look at things in that light, instead of trying to find wishful thinking reasons why actually it's not really like that, we're not going to change anything, because we're going to be in denial that anything needs changing. It is what it is, and we need to face it. And it's important to stress this. This control system, this reptilian control system and in all its facets, is not all-powerful, and it's not omnipotent. It's actually bloody stupid. You know, there's such a difference between being clever and being wise. It's very clever to build an atomic bomb, but it's not wise to do so. There is a difference between the two. And these people are very clever, but they're stupid. And cleverness without wisdom is the most destructive force on earth, which is why that's what they are. They have only managed to control humanity because they put us in a smaller box than they're in. Because of their mental and emotional state, fear, wanting to control because of fear and all the rest of it, they are in a vibrational box. They can't access any higher levels of awareness because of their mental and emotional state that's holding them in density, and their fear. Their fear is being passed on to us through this collective mind. So the only way that they can manipulate and control us is by putting us in a smaller box than they're in, and that's what the suppression of knowledge and awareness and consciousness has been all about. But as we open ourselves to the true nature of ourselves, we can move well beyond any area that they can access. So just because they're technologically advanced intellectually, it doesn't mean they have power over us and they're omnipotent and all-powerful. They're not. They're desperate. Desperate because of the numbers of them to the numbers they're trying to control. And the other thing, I use this analogy a lot, is, like I said earlier, we don't have to find enlightenment. We just have to open our programming to the enlightenment we already are. And it's a testament to the magnificence of what we really are, that this control system has had to throw everything at us. Look at it. All these facets, the food additives, the electromagnetic pollution, the programming through the media, the suppression of education, the suppression of science, all this stuff, they have to throw at us to keep us in servitude. It's like, I use this analogy, if you want to put a ball floating on a tank in an unnatural state, which is where we've been, you have to push it down and you have to hold it there. Because its natural state is floating on the surface, you have to hold it there, because the moment you let it go, zoom, it's gone into its natural state. And symbolically, we've been held on the bottom of the tank by all this stuff that's thrown at us from cradle to grave. And the fact that it needs so much to hold us in this suppressed state shows the magnificence and a genius that we really are, we once were and will be again. When I say we, I mean what we call humanity. So as the control system's ability to do that is unraveled, and this is happening, then we're going to go to the top of the tank again, not by finding enlightenment, but by removing that which is keeping us from it. Be afraid, big monsters coming. This is the big area that they control us with, and we need to let go. They're feeding of this fear. Like I say, 1.5 billion people in China controlled by a handful because of fear of challenging the handful. No more fear. I mean, this is such a symbolic picture. Here's all these bloody sheep, and here's two shepherds, and there's a guy at the back. Now, those sheep, symbolic of humanity, can only be controlled in this way because they acquiesce to the shepherds, and the sheepdog symbolizing fear. What if this group of sheep, instead of going ba, 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 and if they want to, oh, ruff, ruff, oh, fear, oh, following the one in front, the control system, the shepherd, yeah, oh, he's got the power, he's got a stick, aye. What if those sheep said, oh, look, I'm not following him anymore. And hey, Rover, woof, bloody woof, on your bike, you're not frightening me, okay? I'm over here. I'm over here. I'm over here. I'm going down here. I like that. There's some grass down here. Suddenly, this herd, flock, whatever you want to call it, is scattered because it's expressing its uniqueness and it is not fearing the consequences. These people, apparently all-powerful, have no bloody power. None. They'd never find most of them. They might catch them. And that's what humanity's like. We have the numbers. And yet, because we acquiesce through fear of challenging the control system, even though we have the numbers, the handful of people control the many. We have the power. We've chosen not to use it. It's about bloody time we did. God, the answers are there in front of our eyes. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, Albert Einstein. Absolutely it is. So it's pretty certain that if things are going to change in terms of control and suppression and all this stuff, then we've got to stop doing the same thing over and over again, and that is acquiescing to the control system. We're all possibility. What are we doing? Thinking that we just do the same thing over and over again? That's one possibility. Let's express our uniqueness and respect each other's right to express our uniqueness. We're all possibility. Actually, one possibility is swimming against the tide. Let's try it. And let's respect each other's right to do that. We should be celebrating diversity. Diversity is an expression of all possibility. It's acquiescence and conformity that is an insult to all possibility. And yet that's what this system wants us to do, conform. And you know, at least sheep need a sheepdog to keep them in line. Humans have out-sheeped the sheep because we keep each other in line. We don't need the sheepdog. We have sheepdogs called parents and teachers and politicians and peer pressure. When we're thinking of expressing our uniqueness, we're not thinking, oh, what will George Bush think or what will Barack Obama think? No. We're thinking, what will my mother think? What will my father think? What will the neighbours think? What will my mates think? What will the people at work think? In other words, what will other people who have chosen to live in this sheep pen think of me getting out of it? It's like sitting in a cell and you find a way out through the door, and instead of another prison warder coming along to stop you getting out, the other prisoners jump on you. That's what we do. If we are going to be what we really can be, and we're going to respect our right to be different, we have to respect others' right to be different as well. Because when we respect other people's right to be different and express their uniqueness, then we're setting them free and we're helping to set society free. We are policing each other all the time through ridicule, through condemnation. We need to start being at peace with other people having different views and expressing different lifestyles than we do, even if we don't like it. This breaks up this sheep policing the sheep. There's only a few who in full knowledge are behind this control system, and they have to get the target population to police the target population. They don't have the numbers to do it themselves. I have a simple philosophy on life, so simple. Do what you like so long as you don't impose it on others. Dead simple. That's it. And I've heard people say to me, that would be anarchy. What about people murdering each other? Well, I think that murder could just about constitute imposing your will on another person. And when you think about that simple philosophy, it overrides all law, need for law, if we live that. We don't need laws that say don't murder when you wouldn't impose yourself on another person. But we can do this. You know, if Henry Kissinger wants to sacrifice George Bush, be my guest as long as you both agreed. Because when you leave the body, you'll feel right prats and you might learn something in your eternity. I get interested when they want to impose things on other people that don't want those things imposed upon them. That's what the control system's trying to do. That's why I'm interested. But express ourselves as long as we're all agreed. And we don't impose it on other people. We have this either or. Someone wants kind of a rave or something, and some people don't want to be affected by all the noise and disruption. And so we say, they can have it, they can't have it. It's either or. Any society that was conscious would say, okay, we can sort this out, okay? They don't want the noise, fair enough, understand that. They want to have a party, a rave, a good time. Okay, now, let's find a place where they can have what they want that don't disrupt anyone else's life. So they can have their experience that they want and no one else is affected. Everyone's a bloody winner. This is either or. Someone must win, so someone must lose, so someone could win. Old epoch consciousness. Winner, winner, win, win. That's the new consciousness. I stand upon my desk to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in a different way. You see, the world looks very different from up here. You don't believe me? Come and see for yourselves. And it does. When you move your point of observation, the world looks so different. When we break out of constantly scanning the world from a single point of observation, so everything looks the same. From a higher point of observation, things look very, very different. And we can break out into infinite consciousness. Clear our minds. That's another thing, another layer on the onion. It doesn't matter. My goodness me, how we make things matter that don't matter. And it clutters up our mind, it clutters up our emotions, and holds us in low vibrational servitude. I have a thing I call the deathbed perception. You're lying on your deathbed, well, your body is, you're not, and you've got 10 minutes to live. Tell me, looking back at your life, what mattered. You know, in 2004, when that guy cut you up at the lights, and you got out your car and you screamed abuse, and even before, when that guy cut you up at the lights, and you got out your car and you screamed abuse, and he got out and wanted a fight, does that matter now? No. Then the trick is to make sure it doesn't matter then. To bring that mentality into everyday life. It doesn't matter. We get het up, angry, frustrated. We worry about things. People worry about going to the dentist. Then they go to the dentist and they go, oh, that was all right. What do you mean it was all right? You've been worried sick for 3 weeks. It's destroyed your life for 3 weeks. You tell me it's all right. It was no problem. It's bringing this. It does. What really matters? What really matters is loving each other, caring for each other, being kind to each other. What matters is expressing our true magnitude of infinite genius, not acquiescing to meaningless things that we take so bloody seriously. How many things do we look back and God has really het up, frustrated and angry, and we look back, it didn't really matter, did it? Well, don't let it matter then. That's the thing. And then there's what I've long called combing the mirror. Combing the mirror is a crazy thing, because what happens is you want to change your hair, so you comb the mirror. Funnily enough, your hair doesn't change. What you have to do is comb your hair, and then the mirror reflects it. And this so-called out there world is like the mirror. It's not even out there. It's a projection of in here. If we're going to change this apparently out there world, we have to change in here. It's like if this is a movie screen, and I don't like the movie, so I'm going to stand here and I'm going to hurl abuse at the movie screen. Nothing's going to change. I've got to go back to the projector and I've got to change the reel, and then this will change, because this is just an outplaying of that. And the Illuminati control system is delighted, indeed encourages us to believe that we can change the world, if you like, and our lives out there. They want us to comb the mirror because they know nothing's going to change. This is where things change, and we connect with this at what we call the subconscious mind. And it's in the subconscious mind that we interact with this waveform construct. The conscious mind experiences the play-out holographic world, the decoded world. So this is where we have to change things. Because by the time it hits this screen, this holographic decoded world, it's like the movie on the screen. It's a done deal. You ain't got to change that now. You ain't got to change this now. We have to change it before we decode it into experienced holographic reality. There are some people I've been reading, they say 98% of human decisions are made by the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. I would go further. I'd say 100% of human decisions are made by the unconscious mind. What the conscious mind does is experience them. But the conscious mind can interact and work as one with the unconscious mind if it starts to understand the way reality works. How do we understand what's going on in the unconscious mind so therefore we can play a part in changing that? By what I call the language of life. The play-out holographic world of experience is a mirror of the information construct, in other words, our unconscious mind in many senses. And the way it plays out, the language of life, as I call it, tells us what's going on in the unconscious. And therefore, we can play a part together, unconscious and the whole of self, in changing and clearing out what is happening in the unconscious, which is playing out in the experienced conscious holographic world. For instance, do things keep recurring in our lives over and over and over again? You'll never guess it's only happened again. Well, why is that happening to you over and over again and not happening to him at all? What is it within you that's manifesting this? What is it telling you? What is the language of life telling you by what you're now continually experiencing? Why don't things work in your life, but they work in this person's life. What is that telling you? What is it about you that's making it not work? What is it about them that's making it work? The language of life. And you can start to read this, and it's about taking responsibility and saying, oh God, I'm so unlucky, nothing ever happens to me. It's like taking responsibility, power. Why is this happening to me? What is it about me that means this is happening to me and not to them? It's the language of life. He's talking to us. For instance, one of the things that totally bloody controls human experience is a desire for outcomes. We're all possibility. If we live as all possibility, our true self, then we're flowing. We're flowing with life. We haven't got an outcome because we're all possibility. We flow where we want to go, and we flow where life takes us. Once you have an outcome, I want this, then you have pinned yourself to one possibility. And if that possibility doesn't happen, then you're in a state of disappointment. Even though you're all possibility and you can flow anywhere you like, I'm this what I want to be. And it's like a door. And people go through life and they're going, bang, bang, I want to be this. This is my outcome. Bang. And the door's going and life's going, ain't opening. Ain't opening. Bang, bang. Frustration. Anger. Why me? And it gets more, okay, now we're going to put this across the door. And they still go, bang, bang. This is my outcome. And then all the time this is going on, over here, there's a door swinging open saying, hey, come through me, no problem. Oh, no, I want to be this. Bang. And we go through life, and the door doesn't open, and that one's saying, over here. But because we have an outcome, it means it controls our life. And like I said earlier, and suppresses our life. I don't have an outcome. I don't have an outcome. When I get up in the day, I don't have an outcome. I don't have an outcome in my life. I just go where it takes me. Outcomes are limitations, preconceived ideas. Now, intent is a very, very powerful force for change. This is my intent. That energy goes out there, and through what I call vibrational magnetism, it draws towards us what we need to do to achieve that intent. Not when there's an R in the month, and every now and again, every time. So when we have this intent, I want to be truly free. I want to be the true magnitude of who I am. I want to know what's going on in the world. I want to understand this. What happens is that intent, if you mean it, it's not just words, otherwise it's no power at all, then that intent will start drawing to you people, places, experiences which let you achieve that intent. And often they are very challenging, and your whole life, your old life starts to break down as a result of this. A lot of people go, if that's transforming, no thanks. And we go back to the old life. But intent, if we mean it, is the first stage of transforming our lives from what they are to what they could be. The thing about intent, however, that it's the need to sync the intent with what the language of life is telling us. Because if you sync the intent with that door that ain't meant to open, then you can have a very powerful experience called frustration. Because the intent then is not going to open the door, because it ain't meant to open, because it ain't your journey. I have this thing, flow equals go, stuck equals chuck. Or at least look again at what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. It might be how you're trying to do it that's not stopping it flowing. But in the end, life is not meant to be a bitch and then you die. It's not meant to be a series of frustrations and barriers. It's meant to flow. That's what we are. And if it's not flowing, then the language of life is saying something about us. Why isn't it flowing? And interestingly, I've experienced this so many times. I know other people have too. Once you acknowledge what the experience you're having is, maybe one you don't like, is saying about you, you acknowledge it, you bring it to the conscious, boom, there's an energy shift and the problem disappears. The pain in the arse in your life goes out. Because you've acknowledged it, you've read the language of life, and therefore you don't need to experience that anymore and come to that understanding, because you have, and it's gone. Taking responsibility is a very, very fundamental part of this transformation. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. And not taking responsibility is the absolute epitome of giving your power away. When we say it's all your fault that I'm in this situation, whether it's collectively or individually, what we're saying is, I don't have power over my life, you do. Taking responsibility is taking your power back and saying, okay, I'm taking responsibility for this because I have the power to change it. They're not responsible for it, they're just the language of life speaking to me about my responsibility. Therefore, I'm not going to play the blame game. This is my responsibility and I'm going to deal with it. And when we do that, we take our power back and we can change things instead of going through life as a victim of other people's circumstance, which means we're powerless. That's little me. And we ask ourselves, why me? Why am I going through this experience? Well, through the process of vibrational attraction, vibrational magnetism, an expression of us is going out, and an expression of us comes back in the form of people, experiences, locations, jobs, everything. So therefore, what we're putting out is what we're pulling in. Why me? Because we're creating it. Bad luck, good luck, no such thing. Why do some people win, some people lose? Because some people pull that in, some people pull that in. You get people who they say, you meet them and they say, nothing ever happens in my life. And you say, well, what would you like to happen? And they go, well, I don't know really. Well, I don't know really goes out as a vibrational information field, and what comes back is a life where nothing happens. Why? Because you don't know really. So we're not victims. We think we're victims, and the control system wants us to believe we're victims, because then we will do nothing to change the fact that we're not expressing the power that we have. Why me? Ask yourself, because it's your choice. It's your choice and my choice in the sense of there's not some guy with an AK-47 on some other dimension saying to our consciousness, get in that body or I shoot. And in the same way, once we get in here, we attract what we attract. And when we take responsibility for that, we can stop attracting it. Why me? It's like the Oracle said in the Matrix. You've already made the choice. Now you have to understand it. You didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it. And as the message from the psychic 20 years ago said, arduous seeking is not necessary. The path is already mapped out. You only have to follow the clues. We are guiding you along a set path. If we get caught in mind and the limitations of mind, then we can not go along that path. Because mind is telling us, oh, no, you don't do that in this world because you have to do this and you conform and all the rest of it. The difference is that when we make the choice of the path we want to journey on in this reality, in what we call a life, we're doing it from this perspective of perception. When we're trying to understand why we made it, we're doing it from this level of perception. So this sees it on one level, and this is going, I'd agreed to this, you must be having a laugh. Never. Well, this is seeing it in a different light. And it's the same collectively. Why us? Why are we here at this time now as this cusp of change is going on? Same thing. You've already made the choice, now you have to understand it. You didn't come here to make the choice, you already made it. Now you have to try to understand why we made it. Instead of complaining at the situation we're in, and again, this made the choice, this is trying to understand it. Once you break out of this into this, you then start to understand it, because you see what we're experiencing from a totally different perspective. For instance, this sees, in the journey down the symbolic river, this sees the next turn on the river, no further. This sees the whole river from source to sea. So this is seeing an experience in the moment that this is having in a completely different way to how this is seeing it. For instance, you're going down the river on a canoe, it springs a leak. You paddle across to the bank and you sit there and you're angry and you're frustrated. Why me? Why am I so unlucky? And then some guy comes across and says, hey mate, you were so bloody lucky. There's a bloody waterfall around that next turn. And we can even override that through intuition. When we intuitively access this, we intuitively know, no, I'm going to stop for the day here. I'm not going to go any further today. And this might be saying, oh, we can go further. I'm not going any further. And so many things we can be protected from by following our intuition. Why are we here collectively? We're here to break the spell. We're here to break the spell on the human collective mind. What a great thing. What a great thing to play a part in. To break this spell and to stop this human experience becoming this. And in the next few years, like I say, they're going to throw everything in desperation, like the cornered rat, trying to hold on to a control system that's falling. This is where we're going to need to have this perspective of I am consciousness, I'm having an experience, because that will make it so much easier as we go through this transformation and challenge, because if we're in this world and of it, those people are going to find the next few years very, very difficult. Because they will not have a perspective of what's going on, except everything's going crazy, and my God, what's going to happen next? This is a great line from a song. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Isn't it amazing how when you no longer have anything to lose, the butterfly emerges? Because it's fear of loss that keeps us in servitude so much. And when you've got nothing left to lose, suddenly all that's left is freedom. And that is going to be a very powerful experience that a lot of people are going to have in this next period of challenge as this cusp moves on. Just when the caterpillar thought life was over, it became a butterfly. It's amazing that when you're in, so many people have told the story that it was in their lowest moment of despair that boom, something emerged and transformed them. Nothing left to lose, freedom. Okay, I'm waking up, so what do? Well, I would suggest that we all stop making bloody excuses. You know, we can all come to the conclusion that there's this control system and it's doing this, and what about the children, and what about the grandchildren, what's going on? And then the list of excuses why we actually can't do something today. Well, there's a game on, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that. Nothing is more important than focusing on what is happening, because everything comes from that. What can we do? We can refuse under any circumstances, no matter what the frickin' laws and the pressure and the imposition, we can refuse not to have the right to express our freedom of expression. Refuse under any circumstances to shut up. If vast numbers of people did that, this is the key to it all, what are they going to do? They don't have the numbers. We can stop focusing worship on celebrities and television and fake politicians and even sport. Not that I don't enjoy sport, but as long as it's there, peripheral vision, and not here. The worship, externalizing. And this is the biggest thing we can do. Human race, get off your knees. What are we doing down there? What are you doing? You're all that is, has been, and ever can be. Where have you bloody knees for? Well, I'm only little me. No! If we get off our knees, the control system's over. Martin Luther King said, a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. And then there's the people in dark suits and uniforms. Hey, you got children and grandchildren and families as well. What are you doing serving a control system that wishes to impose a fascist state on your families. What are you going to say to your kids when the control system's in and it's controlling every... What are you going to say to your kids when the control system's in and it's controlling every facet of their bloody lives? Daddy, Mummy, Granddad, Grandma, what were you doing when the control system came in? I was helping to do it, dear. All the best with that conversation. What are we doing? Playing a part in, oh, it's me job. Well, get a bloody another one then. We got to do this to our children because it's my job. What can we do? We can cease to serve the control system in uniform with a gun in our hands. We can do that. Soldiers are not there serving their country, serving their people. They're there serving the cabal that's seeking to enslave their people and their families. As Einstein said, the pioneers of a warless world are the youth that refuse military service. And more are equal to that, the adults beyond military service who support those that refuse to serve this control system in uniform. Oh no, you've got to serve your country. You serve your bloody country. I ain't doing it. Just like those wonderful Israeli young people. Know thyself. When you know thyself, when you know you are consciousness, think consciousness is going to get a machine gun and start shooting at aspects of itself. Mind does that. Mind fights. Consciousness doesn't even contemplate it. And that doesn't include just people in uniform. It means fighting for freedom. What's all that about? Let's fight for freedom. Let's have a riot in Athens and let's kill 3 people from the banking system. Hey, the world's a better place now. What you fight, you become. We don't want to fight this system. We need to cease to cooperate with it. This is a meeting of mind. One mind on a horse, one mind with something in its hand trying to do damage. Oh, they're 2 sides. They're one mind without consciousness. Freedom fighters, contradiction in terms. Cognitive dissonance. As Martin Luther King said, the limitation of riots, moral questions aside, is that they cannot win and their participants know it. Hence, rioting is not revolutionary but reactionary because it invites defeat. It involves an emotional catharsis, but it must be followed by a sense of futility. They want people to riot. It justifies more control. Nor do we need to meet this challenge with hate. That's playing away in the stadium we're trying to rid the world of. We don't need to hate these people. We just need to stop cooperating with them. Well, you know, if it's all the same with you, mate, I ain't doing it, okay? No hard feelings, bugger off. And then we've got this, you know, the protest, the mass protest. I do understand that. It might have a part to play. But so many times these protests, they're what I call steam whistles. You know, people go out in big protests with the banners and they kind of feel good about themselves and they go down the pub and say, at least we made our feelings felt. And then what happens? Bugger all. How many people marched in London against the invasion of Iraq, and what happened? Iraq was invaded. Protesting has such limitation. They don't care if we protest and walk through the streets and shout slogans and wave banners. They care if we come together, irrespective of colour, creed, gender, sexuality, any of it. Put our differences aside and unite behind what affects us all and all our families. This control system, this Orwellian agenda, is not trying to enslave black people or Jewish people or middle-class Americans or Hispanics or Australians or Indians. It's trying to enslave all of us. And what it wants to do is divide the target population against itself through these fake, ridiculous fault lines of race, religion, income bracket, so that we divide and rule the target population and they can pick us off one by one. They are terrified of us putting down those fake fault lines and coming together and uniting behind what we should all believe in: freedom for all, irrespective of who we are. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Someone else's injustice is our injustice, because if we allow injustice there, eventually that injustice will come here anyway. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Silence is consent. Can you hear us now? Silence is consent. Because while we're silent on these impositions, the impositions just keep going on and on and on. By our silence, we are acquiescing, even agreeing to them being imposed. The end of silence, the end of acquiescence. If we want to be free, then don't run and hide. Because you can put your head in the sand and ignorance is bliss, but only for a while. You can put your head in the sand because there's a tornado coming. But the tornado's still coming, your bum's in the air. If you lift it out the sand, take responsibility and face it, you can take avoiding action. Ignorance is bliss with a head in the sand, and then, bang, your ass is spinning up in the clouds. Strength does not come from physical capacity, it comes from an indomitable will. Mahatma Gandhi. Isn't it amazing how true that is? How you can see soldiers in uniform involved in truly extraordinary levels of physical courage and what we call heroism. And yet those same people are terrified of saying boo to another guy in uniform who's got more stripes on his arm than he has. Isn't it amazing? Where physical strength can come so easily, and moral strength not. That's to do with the moon matrix and the way that our perception is manipulated. Turkish proverb: a lion sleeps in the heart of every brave man, every brave woman. And it's not really bravery. When you let go of fear, you don't need bravery, you don't need courage. Courage is overcoming fear. When you let go of fear, because I'm all that is, has been, and ever will be. What's the worst that can happen to me? I leave this physical body of limitation and I become all that is, has been, and ever will be, in full awareness that that is what I am. My God, I'm terrified that that might happen. I don't know how I'm going to cope with the terror of thinking that might happen. Know thyself. Again, recurring theme. Know thyself. We are consciousness. What is there to fear? Death? There is no death. Just putting the telescope down. We can meet this with fear. Oh my God, the police state! Or we can treat it with the emotion it deserves. What we have to do is comply. Compliance! That's what we have to do. Because if we don't comply, the control system's in desperate trouble. So it has to frighten us into complying for fear of not complying and the consequences that come from that. Well, hold on a second here. There's something about this that ain't right. When we look at this structure, we look there for the power. But why is that there? Because these silly sods are holding it up there. This is the power. They have to persuade them that they have the power, so they don't take the power to bring that crashing down. Fear of bringing it down through fear of not complying. Once we step out of the pyramid and refuse to cooperate with it, no violence necessary, by the way, then the pyramid starts to collapse because we're holding it together. It's a house of cards. That's all it is. Oh, it's the control system. It's a house of cards. Simple thing. People are being fined ridiculous amounts of money for putting their wheelie bins out on the wrong day or too many inches from the bloody curb. And people go, I don't know, what's the world coming to? It's the big brother state, innit? And then what you going to do? What time's that game show on, honey? Terrible, a bloody thing, I don't know. What? What's that going to do? Don't tell me. That's Big Brother. It's little me that's causing that, not Big Brother. What if thousands of people, when someone is fined that money for that ridiculous thing, and like I say, they're just giving us more and more ridiculous things to see how much we'll take before we resist, and when we don't, they give us even more ridiculous things. What would happen if when someone is faced with that fine, thousands and thousands of people in that area put their wheelie bins out in the wrong place on the wrong day, week after week after week after week? The system couldn't cope. We have the numbers. And I see this, your vote is your voice, be heard. Bollocks it is. How can the vote be your voice when the people you're given the choice of voting for that have any chance of forming a government are standing on the same postage stamp of political policy and perception? There's no choice. We've reached a point now where the vote becomes a voice when we refuse to vote. We refuse to play the game anymore. What would have happened at this recent election, this farce, if tens of millions of people had said, we've had a bellyful, we're not voting, it only encourages them? We are not voting because we're going to make a statement that we know this system is rigged and we're having it no more. What would have happened in these days that have passed since that election? The whole focus of the media and everything would have been, bloody hell, what's going on? Why this mass refusal not to vote? Now we've got a debate going. Now we're looking at why people haven't voted because the system is rigged. Now the system has to bloody start to change because it's lost its credibility. But instead, the majority trotted along to vote because they said, well, if you don't vote for them, they might get in. It doesn't matter! They're masks on the same face. So what if they get in? Same thing will bloody happen. Comply! No! No, no! Not if it's enslaving me and my children and imposing on my freedom. Comply, leave your home now it's foreclosed. No, no, no. Let's follow this through, shall we? Millions of people in the world are losing their homes, being foreclosed and ending up homeless. Let's follow this through. Why have you lost your home, my friend? Because I can't pay me mortgage. Why can't you pay your mortgage? Because I lost my job. Why did you lose your job? Because the great banking collapse, they can't get this, they can't get my company went bust. And who's taking your home away and saying you've got to leave? The banks that caused the fricking problem. And we are leaving? What are we doing? What are we doing? No, we won't leave when the banks have caused the problem and now they're telling us to leave to take the assets. No, we won't. And people who are not being foreclosed need to support those that are. We're all in this together. Compulsory vaccinations. No, no, no. You must do what we say. We have changed the law. Not if you are imposing on my freedom and my rights to be a free citizen with a free voice. No, no, no. What are they going to do? They come out of Downing Street, whether it's Clegg and his mate, bloody Cameron, or it's bloody Obama, or whoever it is in America, and they say, we've had a discussion, and this is what we're going to do. What if vast numbers of people say, well, we ain't doing it? They have no power whatsoever. Their power comes in our acquiescence. Oh, but you can't defy the law. Okay, let's follow this through, shall we? By the way, while I'm talking, put your arms out and I'll put the handcuffs on, because that's what you're telling me. What you're telling me is this. We have no say in laws that are passed. And then we have to obey those laws. Well, okay, forget freedom then. Okay, what if they passed a law that says, we take your children away? Would you obey it? Well, no. So there is a line then. There is a line. It's just, where is that line? And if a law does not respect human freedom, it does not respect human justice, it doesn't respect fair play, we should not be acquiescing to those laws. We should be refusing to acquiesce. What we need is not compliance, we need a non-comply dance, where we beat to a different drum and we dance to a different drum, where we refuse to acquiesce to this control system that seeks to enslave us even more than it already has. Non-comply dance. Do this, comply. No. No. But we need to do it en masse. Oh, we do it with a smile on our face. We're consciousness. All that has been, ever will be. Why shouldn't we have a smile on our face? And smile and feel for these people who are enclosed in mind trying to enslave us. But we need to do it en masse. Because if we don't do it in numbers, then people get picked off. That's what's happening. I am all that is, has been, ever will be. You cannot grant me my freedom. It is not your gift to grant me my freedom or take it away, because I am, we all are, freedom. Put another way, what would infinite consciousness do? Move perspective, little me, all that is. What would infinite consciousness do in the situations that we face, as against what would mind do? If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. Absolutely right. You know what would change the world overnight? Is if we as a human race started doing what we knew to be right and just in the circumstances that we face, instead of making those decisions as so many people do and have long done on basis of what is right for me in this circumstance that I face. Okay, the just thing to do might not be in the moment the best thing to do, but it's the just and right thing to do. And if we started doing what we knew to be right when we're faced with these decisions, as opposed to what we perceive is right for us in the moment, although doing what is right for us in the eternity, then everything would change. If we want a world of peace, then be peaceful. It sounds trite, it sounds simple, but it's devastatingly profound. That's what we need to be with each other. You know, we have people going on anti-war marches who are hurling abuse at each other in their relationships and stuff like that. If we war with each other, then the collective version of that is warring collectively. If we want peace, let's be peaceful. If we want a world of kindness, then let's be kind. And it must come, for goodness sake. It must. If we're all kind to each other, we live in a kind world. Martin Luther King said, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right. And when enough of us take that stance, everything changes. The revolution is not a revolution of weapons, it's not a revolution of fighting, it's not a revolution of hatred, it's a revolution of perception, because everything changes. I am a lion then. I'm not the lamb I kept seeing in the mirror and the world kept telling me I was. And then that expresses itself out into the true nature of who we are. And miracles become possible. We're going into the epoch of what we perceive as miracles. It's just a greater understanding of the way everything works. And the system must fail when that happens. We're being offered, the truth vibrations are offering us in this time, the chance to open the key to our minds, the key to our hearts, which have long been closed by so many people. The key to the freedom on a level that we cannot comprehend, because until we expand our consciousness, we cannot be aware of the true nature of what freedom is. It's not even what we perceive in this world. Enough of this suppression, enough of this slavery, enough of this enslavement of the few by the many. As the poet Shelley said, rise like lions after slumber in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep had fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few. Enough! It's time to fly. It's time to fly. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Let's get on with it. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you.